Kehlani Dupree wasn't just a hairstylist, she was the woman Atlanta's elite trusted with their image, their secrets, and sometimes, their sins. Her salon was more than a place for luxury beauty treatments. It was a sanctuary where celebrities, influencers, and power players could let their guard down. But in a world where loyalty is currency and betrayal can be deadly, Kehlani found herself tangled in a web of deception she couldn't escape. On a warm night, she made an exception, an after-hours appointment, something she rarely did anymore. The man who walked through her doors was someone she had known for years, someone who always paid in cash and expected her discretion. That night, he locked the door behind him. Less than an hour later, the sound of gunfire echoed through the streets. By the time police arrived, she was found dead in the very chair where she had built her empire. The salon, once a place of beauty and transformation, had become a crime scene. Blood on the walls. A shattered phone on the floor. And a single bag left behind, holding the answers to why she had to die. This wasn't a robbery. This wasn't random. Someone wanted Kehlani silenced. But what did she know? And who wanted her dead badly enough to pull the trigger? Before we dive into the shocking twists of this case, make sure to like this video and subscribe for more chilling tales of love, lies, and betrayal. Kehlani Dupree was more than just a hairstylist, she was a powerhouse. At 32, she had built lavish strands into Atlanta's most exclusive salon, a space where only the wealthy, the famous, and the powerful could sit in her chair. She wasn't just styling hair, she was crafting images, perfecting appearances, and, most importantly, keeping secrets. Because in a city where reputation was everything, trust was the real currency. And Kehlani? She was rich in it. Her clients confided in her the way people confessed to priests. She heard about failing marriages before the divorce papers were filed. She knew who was sleeping with whom, who was laundering money, and who had skeletons that could shatter careers. But Kehlani wasn't a gossip. That's why they trusted her. She listened, she nodded, and she kept every secret locked away. A single mother of two, Kehlani had learned early on that survival meant knowing when to speak and when to stay silent. She had spent over a decade perfecting her craft, climbing from a small booth in a crowded beauty shop to owning a salon so exclusive that booking an appointment was damn near impossible. Celebrities, socialites, athletes, they all came to lavish strands. And one of those clients was Bishop "Bish" Whitaker. At 39, Bishop was a name that carried weight in Atlanta's rap scene. A flashy music producer with deep pockets and a reputation that stretched beyond the studio. He wasn't just connected, he was the connection. The kind of man who could make or break an artist's career with a single phone call. He had a fleet of luxury cars, a penthouse with a skyline view, and a network of people who both feared and respected him. Bishop was unpredictable. One minute, he was charming, laughing over a fresh lineup, flashing stacks of cash for an impromptu shopping spree. The next, he was cold, distant, his mood shifting like a storm rolling in. There were whispers about his temper, about the people who crossed him and suddenly fell off the map. But no one dared to question him. Not publicly. For over a year, he had been one of Kehlani's most loyal clients, always booking private, after-hours sessions. He never sat in the salon when other clients were around. He didn't do small talk in a crowded space. It was always just him and Kehlani, the door locked, the city outside oblivious to whatever conversations took place between them. People speculated. Some said Kehlani was more than just his stylist. Others claimed she was the only person he trusted enough to let his guard down. But Kehlani never fed into the rumors. If there was one thing she knew, it was that in Bishop's world, knowing too much could be deadly. And yet, that's exactly what happened. Because Kehlani wasn't just doing hair. She was watching. Listening. And whether she realized it or not, she had become part of a game she never signed up to play. There was a reason Bishop kept his business private. A reason he paid in cash and never let anyone else into those after-hours sessions. And the moment Kehlani found herself tangled in his secrets, her fate was already sealed. She just didn't know it yet. Bishop Whitaker had built his reputation on power, power in the music industry, power in the streets, and power over the people in his life. To the world, he was a kingmaker, a hit producer with platinum records under his belt. But behind closed doors, his empire was built on more than just music. He was involved in criminal activities including money laundering. Money moved through his hands in ways that couldn't be traced, and his influence stretched far beyond the studio. Deals were made in back rooms, cash exchanged in silence, and those who knew too much learned to keep their mouths shut. But there was one person who never played by those rules. Kehlani Dupree wasn't just another woman caught in Bishop's orbit. She had become part of his world in ways she never should have. For over a year, their late-night appointments had been more than just haircuts and private conversations. Their relationship had blurred the line between business and something far more dangerous. The irony? Kehlani wasn't even the woman he claimed as his own. That title belonged to Samaria Greer, a 34-year-old fashion designer who had carved out a name for herself in the industry. She was just as powerful in her world as Bishop was in his, and together, they were Atlanta's version of a power couple, untouchable, enviable, feared. But what people didn't see was the truth behind their picture-perfect image. Samaria knew exactly who she was dealing with. She knew about the women, the money, the things he kept hidden from the public. What she didn't know, what she needed to know, was how deep it all went. And that's where Kehlani came in. At first, it was just small talk. A few messages exchanged here and there, casual check-ins that didn't raise alarms. But over time, Kehlani became more than just an informant, she became Samaria's eyes and ears. She sent screenshots, forwarded conversations, exposed the web of lies Bishop had so carefully spun. And with every new piece of information, Samaria got closer to her exit. Because leaving a man like Bishop wasn't just a matter of walking away. Women didn't leave Bishop Whitaker. They disappeared. Kehlani knew the risk. She knew who she was dealing with. But she convinced herself she was doing the right thing. She wasn't betraying him, she was protecting someone who needed to get out before it was too late. But betrayal is a matter of perspective. When Bishop found out what she had done, it wasn't just about the messages. It wasn't just about the infidelity or the money or the lies. It was about respect. Control. The fact that someone he trusted had dared to move against him. The moment he saw the messages, the proof of Kehlani's disloyalty, something inside him shifted. Trust was sacred. And in his world, there was only one way to deal with someone who broke it. Kehlani had played her hand. And now, she had to pay the price. June 17, 2024. A humid summer night in Atlanta. The kind of night where the air felt thick with secrets, where the city pulsed with energy just beneath the surface. Kehlani Dupree had no reason to be at lavish strands that late. She had built her career to the point where after-hours appointments were a thing of the past, reserved only for the clients who paid more than just money, the ones who demanded absolute privacy. Bishop Whitaker was one of those clients. At exactly 10 p.m., security cameras captured him pulling up in his custom-wrapped Rolls-Royce Cullinan. The car gleamed under the streetlights, a moving symbol of wealth and power. He stepped out, dressed in all black, a Louis Vuitton duffel bag slung over his shoulder. His face was unreadable, his stride slow and deliberate. He approached the salon's front door and knocked twice. A moment later, Kehlani let him in. Then, the door locked behind him. What happened inside that salon in the next 42 minutes would never be fully known. There was no audio, no witnesses, just the cold, unblinking gaze of the security camera outside, capturing nothing but silence. But inside? Inside, the walls of lavish strands bore witness to a betrayal that had finally reached its boiling point. Kehlani wasn't afraid of Bishop. She had known him too long, had seen him in ways most people hadn't. Maybe she thought she could talk him down, smooth things over the way she always had. Maybe she underestimated how deep his rage ran. Maybe she saw it in his eyes the moment he set the bag down, the realization that this wasn't a conversation. It was a confrontation. And then, at exactly 10:42 p.m., the first gunshot shattered the night. A second shot followed just seconds later. The sound echoed through the empty streets, sharp and final. A neighboring business owner, closing up shop for the night, froze at the noise. 2 gunshots. Too close. Too deliberate. He hesitated for a moment before pulling out his phone and dialing 911. When police arrived minutes later, the salon was eerily still. No signs of a struggle, no chaos, just a crime scene frozen in time. Kehlani was slumped in her own salon chair, her body unnaturally still. One bullet had torn through her forehead, another lodged in her chest. Her hands, so skilled, so steady, were still tangled in the lace front wig she had been styling, as if death had interrupted her mid-motion. The once pristine white walls of lavish strands were streaked with blood. And on the floor, just inches from her lifeless hand, was her phone. Shattered. Destroyed. As if someone had wanted to ensure whatever was on it would never be seen again. But it was what Bishop left behind that told the real story. The Louis Vuitton duffel bag he had walked in with was still there, unzipped and wide open, its contents spilling out like a confession. A Glock 19, the weapon that had ended Kehlani's life. Stacks of cash, silent payment for a sin that couldn't be undone. And then, the most damning piece of evidence of all, printed screenshots. Pages upon pages of text messages exchanged between Kehlani and Samaria Greer. Bishop hadn't just discovered the betrayal. He had planned this. This wasn't a crime of passion. It wasn't a moment of uncontrollable rage. This was an execution. Kehlani had held too many secrets. And in the end, one of them had cost her everything. The moment Bishop Whitaker pulled the trigger, he knew there was no turning back. Kehlani Dupree was gone, and with her, any chance of undoing what had just been set in motion. He didn't panic. He didn't hesitate. He had planned this too carefully to let emotions take over now. Surveillance footage captured him leaving lavish strands just minutes after the gunshots rang out. He didn't run. He didn't rush. He moved with the same confidence he always had, stepping out into the night like a man who had just handled business. His all-black outfit blended into the darkness as he climbed back into his custom-wrapped Rolls-Royce Cullinan. And then, he was gone. For hours, Atlanta PD scoured the city, putting out an APB on his vehicle. But Bishop knew better than to go straight home. He had learned from others' mistakes. There were rules to this game, rules that had kept men like him untouchable for years. Rule number 1, eliminate the evidence. Before disappearing completely, he made one crucial stop. Somewhere on the west side of Atlanta, in an abandoned lot, a small fire burned in the dead of night. The flames danced against the darkness, consuming the last traces of Kehlani's blood. His clothes, his gloves, every piece of fabric that tied him to lavish strands, turned to ash beneath his feet. By the time the embers cooled, Bishop Whitaker had erased himself from the scene of the crime. And then, he vanished. For 3 days, Atlanta held its breath. The city was used to crime, but this was different. This was Bishop. A man who had been in VIP sections with rap's biggest stars just a week ago. A man whose beats had dominated the airwaves. A man who, until now, had seemed untouchable. But now, he was a fugitive. Yet, something strange happened in those 72 hours. The music industry, the same one that had built Bishop up, given him status, given him wealth, fell silent. No one posted, "Free Bishop." No one released statements condemning the murder. There were no interviews, no debates, no hashtags. Just silence. Was it fear? Loyalty? Or something deeper, an unspoken rule that when a man like Bishop falls, you don't acknowledge it? Whatever the reason, one thing was clear, Bishop was alone in this. They deliberated for just 8 hours before reaching their decision. When the verdict was read aloud, the air in the courtroom grew thick. Guilty. Bishop didn't flinch. He sat still, his jaw clenched, his expression unreadable. The arrogance, the smugness that had once defined him, was gone. Kehlani's mother let out a quiet sob. Her siblings held each other. And in the front row, her 2 children sat, too young to fully grasp the weight of what had just happened. Then came the sentence. Life in prison. No chance of parole. Bishop Whitaker, once a king in the music industry, was now just another inmate, a man whose empire had crumbled under the weight of his own choices. But it was his final words that sent a chill through the room. As he was led out, reporters swarmed, cameras flashing, voices shouting over each other. Bishop didn't look at them. He didn't look at Kehlani's grieving family. He simply muttered under his breath, just loud enough for the microphones to catch. She shouldn't have betrayed me. A statement not of regret, not of remorse, but of blame. Even in the face of justice, Bishop refused to take responsibility for what he had done. And just like that, he was gone. Kehlani Dupree's funeral was a painful reminder of a life taken too soon. The gold-trimmed casket reflected the elegance she carried in life, but nothing could mask the tragedy of her death. Friends, family, and longtime clients filled the chapel, their faces heavy with grief. But in the front row, where the pain was deepest, sat her 2 young children, too small to fully understand what they had lost. Tears were shed, stories were told, and praises were sung about the woman who had built an empire with her own hands. Kehlani had been more than a hairstylist, she had been a confidant, a protector, a woman who made others feel powerful. But as the service continued, another emotion lingered in the air beneath the sorrow. Anger. She should still be here. She should still be running lavish strands, raising her children, living the life she worked so hard for. But instead, the people who once filled her chair had already moved on. The industry that praised her talent was silent. And Bishop Whitaker? His name, once powerful in music, was now nothing more than a whisper in the halls of a maximum security prison. He had killed Kehlani to protect himself, but all he did was ensure that she would never be forgotten. Atlanta would always remember. Kehlani Dupree's story is a chilling reminder that trust can be a double-edged sword. She was more than just a hairstylist, she was the keeper of secrets, the silent witness to the lives of the rich and powerful. The trust her clients placed in her gave her access, influence, and a level of power most people never experience. But in the end, that same trust cost her everything. She thought she was doing the right thing. She believed she was helping someone escape a dangerous situation. But in a world where money, power, and deception rule, doing the right thing can be the most dangerous choice of all. Was Kehlani's biggest mistake trusting the wrong people? Or was she simply caught in a world where loyalty is only as strong as the secrets you keep? One thing is certain, her name will never be forgotten. If this story shocked you, like and subscribe for more cases that explore the darkest intersections of love, lies, and betrayal.